Dang, I'm getting deja vu all over again. I, I mean, doesn't that defeat the purpose of saying all over again? Deja vu just means you've seen this before.
Wow, deja vu all over again. That's right, everyone. Vegas Golden Knights win 3-2 in overtime over the Washington Capitals. Now, to open up the Hockey Fights Cancer Month, hence the festive lavender headband, the Golden Knights have a little bit of a tough challenge, having to square up against one of their more fierce rivals in the Eastern Conference in the form of the Washington Capitals. Now, going into this game, the Golden Knights keep their lineup pretty much the exact same, with Kolasar being back in the lineup and Logan Thompson getting the start versus a rather beat-up Washington Capitals team. They're missing 6 day-to-day starters and are going with Charlie Lindgren tonight in net. By the way, Charlie Lindgren's one of the few goalies who has never lost to the Vegas Golden Knights, as the only time he's played against us was about 5 years ago as a member of the Montreal Canadiens. So it's the Knights and the Capitals, and it's going to be a fun one.
Who do you think you are, Dave Gosher? Your budget's too small. Just let him have his fun, dude.
So the first period for the Golden Knights didn't exactly get off to the start that they were hoping for, as it wasn't but 30 seconds into the game that the Washington Capitals had their first really good opportunity in the form of a 2-on-1 that ultimately, while it didn't result in a shot against, kind of set the tone for what the game was going to look like. It wasn't the kind of start the Golden Knights were looking for. However, just a couple of seconds after the Capitals 2-on-1, Jonathan Marchessault and Riley Smith broke in on a 2-on-1. Really good pass, really good save by Lindgren. Shortly after that good opportunity from Smith and Marchessault, Brett Howden would put the Golden Knights down a man in the form of a slashing penalty at 3:01. It was a bit of a wasted penalty. He didn't really need to take it. It's really early on in the game and anything can happen. And indeed, anything did happen as the worst fear for Golden Knights fans continues. Another bad start in as many nights as Marcus Johansson would put the Washington Capitals ahead 1-0. So I'm going to hark on the penalty kill here for a second because this was a little bit of a massive mistake on their end. Nick Waugh had the opportunity to get the puck up and out of the zone, and he kind of missed on it. That allowed the puck to get low into the zone. OV took the pass from his traditional spot down below the net, and it was essentially just similar to the way the Golden Knights like to score on the power play. It was kind of from the off wing, down to below the net, up into the bumper, and ultimately Johansson was there with nobody around him, finding a soft spot, and it was just tic-tac goal behind Logan Thompson. So not an ideal start. Johansson's third goal of the season from Strome and Ovechkin at 3:39 on the power play. It's a bit of a shaky start, especially given how badly we got goalied against the Winnipeg Jets in the last game. Going down immediately, one, isn't the way the Golden Knights tend to operate this season because we're used to getting off to those good starts. But two, a team like the Washington Capitals who are so beat up, all they need is hope, and they'll be able to keep playing. The Golden Knights know everything about simply playing with hope when all your star players are injured. And so the fact that we were able to give them an early 1-0 lead in this game is a little bit concerning. But anyway, it's just the third first period goal the Golden Knights have allowed this season. It's pretty clear that the Golden Knights didn't really start this game on time. It kind of fell into the same trap against Winnipeg. They weren't really starting periods on time, so that's the second period in a row, if we go back to the third period against the Jets, that the Golden Knights just didn't quite get their feet under them fast enough. So following the goal, there was a little bit of a lull until the Misfits had a couple of really good opportunities about 7 minutes in. They didn't really land many shots. I think it was like 1 or 2. But ultimately, they were able to kind of get the Golden Knights back in the game, get the puck moving in the right direction. And then a few more good chances were there, especially from 7 minutes in to about 6 minutes to go. Golden Knights had their chances, but they weren't converting on any of them. They weren't even putting them on net, as they were doing that thing that I hate so much.
He's going to say try and pass him into the net.
And continuously tried to pass the puck into the net instead of taking the open shots when they were there. You know, Pietrangelo came down the off wing. He had a great shooting lane, and he decided to pass the misfit line, trying to get too cute in their own zone. It's just, there wasn't a lot of movement towards the Capitals' net, especially early on in this first period. The whole tenor of this game changed on one really interesting decision by a Capitals defender in the form of Faravari, where Riley Smith gets in behind the play, and Faravari decides to, instead of trying to play the puck, kind of ride Smith into the wall, takes his feet out from under him, Smith goes into the wall hard, and he's not moving very well. He's clearly not feeling very good. So it looks like the Golden Knights are going to go to the power play. What Jonathan Marchessault does Jonathan Marchessault things, jumps on Ferravari's back, to defend his teammate, and ultimately winds up drawing a penalty. So it was Ferravari for boarding and Marchessault for roughing, both at 16-17. The Ferravari penalty was originally a 5-minute major, but thanks to the Cody Eakin rule, the refs had the opportunity to look at it, and they ultimately rescinded it down to a 2-minute penalty.
You dare speak of Cody Eakin. What is wrong with you?
So on the 4-on-4, the Golden Knights actually carried a good percentage of the play. They looked really good. They were holding the puck in the offensive zone, but they were still doing that pass the puck into the net thing. And the Washington Capitals just happened to be in the right place at the right time to always block every single pass that the Golden Knights were making. And so ultimately the 4-on-4 went by the wayside with pretty minimal action on either direction. Fortunately, pretty shortly following the expiration of the 4-on-4, actually the penalty was taken while on the 4-on-4, but wasn't touched up by the Capitals. Gustafsson took a holding penalty at 18-22, putting the Golden Knights on their first power play of the evening. Now, this is a bit of a turning point in the game. Riley Smith had just left the bench at this point. He was getting evaluated, so that's a good player off the power play already, especially on that second unit, which has been so lethal all year. Just hasn't been able to find the net as often as the first line. So the first line's pretty jazzed up. They get out there, they're controlling the play really well, and Jack Eichel just decides to do Jack Eichel things again as he puts the Golden Knights back into the game, knotting it up at 1 on the power play. Now, Jack Eichel's an incredible player. He's very smart, he's very fast, and he's very skilled. And yet, this goal was entirely on his smarts. He pretty much held onto the puck for a solid 20 seconds high in the zone. And because Marchessault was on the off wing ready for a one-timer, and because Stone was in the bumper position ready for a one-timer, all of the Capitals defensemen kind of had to play back off of him, which allowed him to find a soft spot just above the left circle and fire it underneath the blocker of Lindgren, just an absolute twisted wrister. And there's no way anybody's stopping that. I don't care if your name's, Patrick Waugh, Roberto Luongo, or Andrei Vasilevsky. You're not stopping that shot. Even Lindgren could see it. He wasn't screened, and Eichel just shot it clean past him. And so it was an impressive goal. It shows how good of a wrister Eichel has. And more importantly, it put the Golden Knights back in this game, tying it up at 1 apiece. So that's Eichel's 5th of the year from Stevenson and Pietrangelo at 18:55 of the first period. So right at the horn, there was a little bit of a shoving match. Haig went after Ferravari, likely retribution for the Smith hit. Nobody on the bench was happy, and Ferravari was essentially public enemy number 1 for the Golden Knights in this game. But ultimately, they got out of the period, 1-1 tie. They had got off to a slow start, was able to capitalize on a late power play, keep it interesting. Both teams were 1-for-1 on the power play that period, so it's still 0-0 at 5-on-5. Smith was pulled late in the first period for Val, like I said before. At that point, we weren't very sure if he was going to come back. And so, the first intermission was a little bit sketchy as a Riley Smith fanboy in myself. We were out shooting Washington 11-6 in the first period. We were 53% from the dot. We were down 17-10 in hits, and we had 8 blocked shots in the first. And so it's important for the Golden Knights to get off to a really good start in this second period, especially with that late goal. They can use it to build off and try and propel themselves to running away with a game. The Washington Capitals played last night. Game went really long, overtime or shootout in Carolina. So getting the Capitals on their heels, especially early on in the second period, would be the great thing to do. And something to put the wind behind the Golden Knights was the fact that Riley Smith was back on the bench, and he wound up being right back in the game. Unfortunately, all those factors didn't mean anything as Trevor Van Riemsdyk puts the Capitals ahead again, 2-1, pretty early on in the period at 1:01. It was just a clean offensive zone draw win for the Capitals, went straight back to TVR, and he took a couple of steps forward and fired it through a sea of bodies off the post and in behind Logan Thompson. There's really nothing you could do about it. Thompson barely saw it, and I'm fairly certain the puck changed directions at least twice on the way to the net, so you can't really blame anyone per se. But the fact that the Golden Knights, again, missed the start of a period is just really frustrating, as that's 3 consecutive periods now that the Golden Knights have allowed a goal early on especially in shutdown situations going back to the Winnipeg game. So TVR, Trevor Van Riemsdyk's first goal of the year from Strome at 101 puts the Golden Knights down again. And it's just another game. Golden Knights continue to get off to a really bad start. Washington landed the first 5 shots of this period within the first 3 minutes. So that's telling you something as to how under siege Logan Thompson was early on in this match. The Golden Knights didn't really muster their first good offensive zone opportunity until Keegan Colasar had a good low shot just tipped away in time about 8 minutes in. Then the Golden Knights continued just to look incredibly sloppy for the majority of the second period. It was just a whole lot of nothing again from about 8 minutes in to about 6 minutes to go. They weren't really able to do anything. There was no offensive zone pressure, and when there was, it was coming from the fourth line at the back end of an extended shift, or it was defenders simply just moseying in 1-on-4. So there really wasn't traditional Golden Knights offense, and it was just kind of a frustrating period to watch. Fortunately, there was a good low passing play, low in the zone between Kessel and Amadio. Really good save by Lindgren. I'm convinced if Amadio holds onto this puck a little bit better, or either holds onto it longer or fires it one-timer, he may have tied the game up late in this second period. It just took him a little bit too long to corral the pass, which gave Lindgren time to adjust the angle and come out and challenge the shooter. Honestly, that was the last real thing that happened in the period for the Golden Knights, as it was just an ugly period overall. There wasn't a lot of anything going on. It was just flat. So the fact that they were only down 1 going into the third is honestly a testament to how good the defense and goaltending is, because the offense was nowhere to be found. The offense in this period was DOA. So obviously the Golden Knights will be looking to improve on that going into the third period. This definitely wasn't the same team that we saw basically running Winnipeg out of the building a couple of nights ago. The passes aren't there. They look very disinterested, especially through 2, and especially after Van Riemsdyk put the Capitals ahead again. Just too many passes, too much East-West hockey, and basically no chemistry in this period, which was really frustrating to watch given how well that they've played over the course of the young season so far. We're still out shooting Washington 19-17 at this point, but got outshot 11-8 in the period. We're now only 46% from the dot, 23 hits, 18 blocks. So there's a little bit of a room for improvement going here into the third. Going into the third period, this is kind of a low watermark for the Golden Knights. This is the first time this year that they've trailed in the third period, and it's happened in consecutive games. It's only the third time they've been down going into the third in 11 games this season. And it really couldn't have started off much better, all things being equal. Clearly, the Golden Knights understood the assignment for what they needed to do to improve going into this third period, as Trevor Van Riemsdyk took a tripping penalty at 1:18. It was a good chance to get momentum, get the puck moving in the right direction. That and the other thing, momentum being, the important thing, especially when you're trying to just claw back and get 1 point to kick off a 5-game road trip. Because I'm pretty sure that's what the Golden Knights were looking at doing here. Is just get that 1 point, try and find a way to scrap this game into overtime, trying to get, 5 of 10 on a 5-game road trip, whatever. The first wave of the power play was just a big mess, and it was captivated by Alex Pietrangelo just not looking very interesting. He took a pass kind of behind the net. He took his own sweet time getting to a clear, got beat to the puck, and ultimately had to haul down Capitals forward and wound up completely nullifying the Golden Knights power play about 50 seconds in. So it was a big mistake with Pietrangelo's tripping penalty at 2:08. Made it 4-on-4, so it's the opposite of useful. 4-on-4, there's a good chance for Marchessault on a turnover. Much better save by Lindgren. Again, he was pretty dialed in at this point of the game. And ultimately, on the carryover power play for the Washington Capitals, they weren't really able to do much, only mustering 1 good shot opportunity against. Pietrangelo almost made up for the sins of the past by jumping out of the box and almost having a good break-in, but he missed wide right. Again, too many passes. 7 minutes in, they had squandered about 3 or 4 good offensive zone opportunities just by overly passing, trying to get too cute, trying to pass the puck into the net. And at that point, when you get about halfway into the third period, especially a banged-up team like the Caps, they're going to throw it into prevent defense and try and make life really difficult on the Golden Knights. And that's exactly what they started doing when the period got to its halfway mark. There was a lot of one-and-done chances in the offensive zone for the Golden Knights, especially from the start of the period, but particularly from the end of the penalty kill until about 8 minutes to go. The Golden Knights weren't really able to do much. It was a lot of chips, chases, a lot of cycle plays that resulted in one shot and then a clear. That was until what looked to be another run-of-the-mill dump in from Pietrangelo, fired wide right of the net, kind of what appeared to me being killing the offensive zone pressure again. The Capitals go back to get it, and William Karlsson just decides to outwork him. He gets in behind the defender, steals the puck, and fires a really nice pass to Will Carrier, who's just coming off the bench to enter the zone. Finds him in a gap between what I got to only say is basically the entire Capitals team, and he goes down the middle of the ice, drags it a little bit, and fires it home past Lindgren to tie up the game. Pretty goal. Absolutely pretty goal, especially in a game where everything was going not the Golden Knights' way. To find Carrier, to have him get his second of the year from Karlsson and Pietrangelo in such a big spot, tying up the game, looking like the Golden Knights will be able to manage a point, is just humongous. The fact that Carrier went post in proves he's got the talent. The fact that Karlsson found him there to begin with proves that we may have vintage William Karlsson again, because that was a first-year play that he made. It was honestly, it threw me back. It was really impressive. Whatever the reason, it is now 2-2, and we have ourselves a hockey game again. There was a good chance for Stone shortly after the goal. He kind of walked around and he just kind of owned the puck in the zone, fired around, better save from Lindgren again. The Golden Knights need to be wary of a press at this point, though, as the Capitals are known for, recovering, winning a game late, especially after having it tied up in the third period. And it appeared initially that the Golden Knights were doing a really good job of making sure that they didn't fall under the pressure of what was essentially a Capitals team that knew if the game went to overtime, they may not be able to hold on because, they've second game in a row, they're really banged up. And so they kind of threw all their eggs in one basket on this late third period, and they made the Golden Knights' life very difficult. None more encompassing than what happened in the dying seconds of the game. So while the Golden Knights dominated possession for the last 2 minutes, they kind of had a bit of a turnover on a bouncing puck with about 4 seconds to go entering the offensive zone. And, there's no nice way to put this. Braden McNabb got beat. He got beat like a rented defenseman. It was so ugly, the route that he took to get this puck. But whatever happened, he got caught flat-footed, and the Capitals forward walked right around him. And what was a 3-on-2 for the Golden Knights on defense turned into a 2-on-1 for the Capitals super quickly. And as time's winding down, this puck, I can see where this is going. This is going from Thompson's left to his right. And ultimately, the pass got from left to his right, and the Capitals were able to score in the dying seconds.
I knew this team didn't have the kill gene in them. I knew they haven't found that again. Shame on them.
Did I say dying seconds? I meant dead seconds. And in overtime is when anything can happen. 3-on-3 is probably the single greatest thing that's ever happened to the NHL. I remember when they were demoing it in the American Hockey League like 10 years ago at this point, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And the fact that the Golden Knights get to do 2 3-on-3 overtimes in back-to-back games is just great for a hockey fan. Plus, free hockey. Can't complain. So Riley Smith had a really good break on the first shift of overtime. It went off of Lindgren's glove and then off the post and out. And ultimately, that kind of set the tone for what overtime would be. As, there was a little bit of neutral zone hockey. The Capitals weren't really able to maintain possession. They looked absolutely gassed at this point. And so the Golden Knights just kept hammering home the pressure and kept hammering home the opportunities. And ultimately, the top unit gets out there in the form of Eichel and Theodore, and I believe Stone was out there as well. And Jack Eichel, fresh off of his incredible overtime winner against Winnipeg, he essentially tries to do the same thing again as he holds the puck high in the zone, skates around, shakes off a couple defenders, doesn't really shoot, doesn't have a good lane, tries to cut through the middle of the ice. All 3 Capitals defenders converge on him, and he starts to flank around to Lindgren's right, kind of high in the zone, and all you see on the broadcast is just a little bit of a tell. With all eyes on him, Jack Eichel simply tips his head a little bit to alert Shea Theodore to cut to the net behind Alex Ovechkin. Eichel throws a space pass to him, just past the stick of Ovi, and the rest is history. Nobody likes overtime goals against the Washington Capitals more than Shea Theodore. And he just cuts in on Lindgren, goes backhand, forehand, slips it under the arm in the net, and gives the Golden Knights a 3-2 win in overtime to kick off this road trip. So another overtime game has gone by the boards. The Golden Knights are 2-0 in games that have gone past regulation now. And it was a messy game. Just an ugly game again. But the Golden Knights were able to come out on top for the second night in a row. For how great the game was against Winnipeg, despite the outcome being exactly the same as it was tonight, they were completely different games. We wound up out shooting the Caps 31-21. We season low, 41% from the dot when it was all said. 27 hits, 23 blocks. Both teams were 1-for-1 on the power play. You got to give this game to the high-end talent again. With Eichel getting that goal in the first, the great pass from Eichel in overtime to set up Theodore, and Carrier getting up on the scoreboard again, which is always great to see. I love the fullback goals from the fourth line. It was another complete team effort, and yet I guarantee you, Bruce Cassidy is not happy with this outcome. Sure, he'll take the 2 points, but he's more of a process guy, and I don't think that he's overly happy with the way the Golden Knights played this game. But ultimately, you can be unhappy with whatever you want to. I choose to be happy with a 3-2 overtime win. Next up for the Golden Knights is the Ottawa Senators as the road trip moves along. Here comes a 2-game swing through Ontario with the Senators up first, and then the Leafs coming right after them. If you like this video, be sure to like it. If you really liked it, subscribe for more. Comment down below if you want to interact with me, as I'd love to talk with you guys in the comment section. And I will catch you guys in the next one.